What are you looking for down there? Hey, what's up, Todd? Yeah, it was getting late, and I've got the other office is torn to pieces, and then I also moved some stuff in behind me just to get it off the floor in there so I could move. So it's really a pain. So I'm going to work on this. I've got to get started on it anyways. It's not due for a while, but it's one of those things that do a little bit at a time. It doesn't drive you nuts. The client has to pick out some things for the final work, but if I can get some of this other stuff done before that, that'll be good. Let's see. So that's the reason I'm starting late is I went in and I resawed a piece of wood so I have some book match tabs, and then I planed them and everything prepared so I didn't have to go to the other room during the stream. No, no, no. Leave that alone. You are trouble. I tell you what, you are a troublemaker. Neko. Baka Neko. All right, go find something to do. So this is a modern blade. It's a cutter. So it's a live blade. See if I can adjust the camera a little bit better here. So the modern blades, it's differentially clayed and heat tempered, but it has a really cheap handle. So that's where a lot of times these companies will try to save a little bit of dough. What's funny is this is called a panel wrap. And there's an emperor node on the panel wrap. So on the bottom of the stingray's belly, down by his schween, there's a bigger node. And it's called the emperor node. And it's the most valuable part of the stingray skin. Normally traditionally, they would wrap the handle so that the emperor node was so the way you carried your sword was on the left side of the body with the edge of the blade up. So this would have been the emote side or the outside, and they would line the panel or line the stingray skin so that the emperor node was prominently displayed on the outside publicly. But this is it's a really bad skin. You can see how much the nodes break up. So it was just something that they put to the side as a reject skin and just cut strips out of it. So the proper way to do this is it should wrap all the way around. All the way around. The seam is going to be on the ura side, because when you're holding up here, if you cut something with this, the force is applied because the end of the blade pushes up. The force is applied downward into the back of the tsuka. So you want to have the seam on the top and have the full strength on the bottom with the wrap. And of course, this one, the guy used it a lot and pretty much, wore the handle out. Problem with this wrapping this way, and it also looks like it's really cheap wood or really bad quality wood, is that these have a tendency to break or to crack and split. Same. in Japanese, stingray skin, same. I got a like from Wideshank on Twitter asking about a Stone Science t-shirt, so hopefully I can get one of those rolling along. I should offer to make it for him and throw a bunch of Easter eggs in there. I don't believe so. Or they don't have much. I'm sure Lewis will get that taken care of. Oh, yeah, of course. Anthony mentioned it, for about 10 seconds. Artie wasn't even there. But again, I think Anthony was pretty ticked off. Once again, Artie didn't show up for work. This is just rice paper. Sushigami. You know what? I was sitting there watching it, and I don't even know what the picture was. I just didn't even pay attention to it. I was like looking at other things, I think. But yeah, he was. How about for a gift showing up on it? Be punctual. It's pretty funny. Once that animosity starts, it's over. It's pretty hard to get it back. Yeah, that's weird. I just wasn't even, I just tuned it out. Like when he was showing the picture, I was just like, who cares? You're late. You big dummy. Yeah, I was just, it was funny that Artie broke his chair though. So I was glad I tuned in just for that. I saw a fat guy break a chair once, and it's really awkward. It's just, everyone's just kind of like, ooh, yeah, that's unfortunate. Of course. High quality chairs. So this thing's going to be getting the full boat. It's going to get a new koiguchi, a new kirigata. Seppa looks good. It's not broken. The solder joint is good. This is going to be kind of awkward to do in here, but we'll get through it. Use the chair. A plus. Yeah, I don't know. That whole scene was too weird this morning. Too weird. Habaki. I call that a seppa. That's the habaki. Seppa are the little washers. This is for a client. I do at least a couple a year. Hattori Hanzo steel. That always comes up no matter what. It's not old, it's a modern blade, but it's one that someone uses for actual cutting practice. So it's a live blade. Give that a nice polish, maybe etch it. This is an all new handle, a new tsuba, a new fuchi, a new koshirae. It's pretty much a full restoration other than the blade. I don't have to do anything to the blade. I'm going to cut some tomatoes. Fortunately, on this one, I don't have to make one of these. This is one of the most involved parts for me personally. Start with a flat piece of metal and you have to hammer it and then file it, solder this joint together because it's folded around the blade and it's got to fit perfect. So it's one of those things where you anneal it, soften it, slowly tap it into place, and it's a long haul on that. This one looks good though. I don't have to make one. Habaki, not hibachi, habaki. So when they do these panel wraps, they cut a channel into the side of the tsuka so that the same sits recessed in that channel. Which is a little bit better than when you see a really cheap one. They won't even do that. They won't even cut that recess in there. They'll just stick a piece to the outside, so you get a really weird shape. Once you wrap the ito, the silk. Yeah, I don't do any sharpening. That's a whole different discipline there, and thousands of dollars worth of whetstones and a lot of practice. You really want to specialize, be a specialist in that. A lot of people out there think that they're sharpeners, and that is an unbelievable skill to sharpen Japanese steel. I'm just gonna try to get something playing really low in the background. It gets too quiet. Too quiet. See if there's one of these where I won't get a copyright strike. Even classical music will get you, even though, you know, most classical compositions are in free domain, but new symphonies re-record them and then they get rights on them. So I don't know, YouTube has got some pretty sophisticated software analyzing audio streams. I don't know. That's a lot of that airfare adds up. I don't know, maybe Compound's picking up the airfare. I don't know. All the big media platforms are getting a little too uppity. Facebook, you know, auto flagged that. All I did was post a link to MWAT, and I got flagged for it by Facebook. And it wasn't anyone in the BBG that did it. It was Facebook that did it. And they did it under possible fraud and scam. Like, you know what, guys? Mind your own business. I'll be right back. I got to grab a couple of things in the shop. Yeah, I think that was a bit of a mistake on Landman's part. He probably shouldn't have done that. Follow what Anthony does, not what Artie does. Everybody just gets up and leaves and counts there for 10 minutes by himself. You know what? Artie went out and smoked is what he did, and Lando sat out there and talked to him. I'm sure that's what went on. Guy can't go 2 hours without one of his vices kicking in. He's a real dork. So what I did here is I took a piece of tulip, and it was one piece, and I ran it through the bandsaw and split it down the middle, and then I took each of the halves and just barely planed them through the thickness planer to make them smooth. So I've got a nice book match set that the grain runs consistently all the way through. So when it's glued back together, we'll have the most strength. And I picked a piece here. You can kind of see the grain. It's got a slight bit of a curve to it. So I picked that spot because I want the finished handle will have a slight curve to it. And I want that curve to go with the grain as much as possible to get the most strength out of it. If you start crossing the grain, that's when you'll get splits. It's not a real tight grain, but it's pretty good. And then I just marked them with the direction for both sides. So I won't forget. I left about, let's see. I probably left 02, 03 thickness on each one so that I can shape it into the final thickness. It's good. So we're going to do a full wrap. That means that this extra, we're on the ura and mote side, that has to come down. Thickness of that same. So on the blade, you have the ha side, which is the sharp side, and then you have the mune, which is the back, the spine of the blade. It's pretty funny that he followed along with Artie. I'm just looking for a real nice match with the flow. And we're going to leave extra because he hasn't picked out a tsuba and fuchi. The fuchi is a little metal cap that goes over this end. And the tsuba, the koshirae, is on the end, the cap, or tsukagashira. And I don't know what size they'll be ultimately, so I have to leave extra so you get a nice tight fit. And I really can't even do the final contour on this end until I have that fuchi. That's probably about enough. I'm going to get hit for. I think I read somewhere that Landman got like a bunch of DUIs, like enough where it becomes a felony. I don't know if it was 6 or what, but it was a whole bunch. It was at least 3 more, I think. Wasn't that kind of weird that they had Mike Cannon come in on announcement day? Don't you want to let your new boy kind of shine a little bit and not have to compete with a fourth mouth? I thought that was kind of, I don't know, I would have been kind of ticked. Like, hey, this is the announcement day. You got to get an extra dude in here? I'm going to put one more set of shelves up in here too. It'll be very helpful. And I'm going to build the dudes a shelf to go up on and sit on top of everything so that they're not walking on the desks. And make them a little step to get up there because they are not going to stay off the desks. That's pretty clear. Pretty clear. Yeah, that All in the Family episode was kind of controversial. It's just kind of like, why approach that subject in a show like that? It's kind of demented, actually, on the part of the writers. But Rob Reiner's a real degenerate. I vaguely remember that show from my parents watching it. And I also kind of remember them just talking about how weird, just a regular conversation talking about how weird that show got. How strangely political they turned it. A lot of those shows were like that. Like, they just got weird towards the end. Brady Bunch, where they just started off goofy, pointless shows, and then they got weird. Different Strokes did that. Jeffersons did that. They just got weird towards the end. I'd even go so far to say is that some of those shows I think were starting to kind of get into the subconscious mind, the demented part of the writers' minds and their psyches. As they ran out of ideas, they started to go deeper. Artie's last day is coming. He won't be around long. Didn't Facts of Life also go that way, where it got really heavy? That's really strange. I think a lot of those shows did. Tootsie Plus. Yeah, really, when you think about it, it's not new. It's been going on for a long time. Have some fun, people. This one follows the curve, the sori, pretty well. You should be able to kind of go with that. Trying to do this and balance the other end of that chair is killing me. I need to be on my long table. Give it a little bit better curve than the original had. A little more smooth. I'm not a TV guy, so I miss out on so much of that stuff. Oh no. The set screw came out of that one. That sucks. All right. Most are, especially for stuff like this. They have expectations. Well, it's a bit of a floating deadline because he's going to have to get me or pick out the rest of the fittings. Or if he wants me to do something custom, he's going to have to make that decision. Some of them I have to get from Japan. Like I get the stingray skins and the silk from Japan. I use tulip because it's very close. The wood that they use in Japan is called hinoki, and it's in the magnolia family. But it's hard to get. You can get it imported, but you're going to pay about $200 for a piece of wood. And that's because getting organic things imported in the country is very difficult for like parasites and bugs and things. They don't like to bring natural products into the country. That's how we end up with these invasive species. And even like plants, like here in Georgia, we have bamboo growing everywhere. So this is very close to, it's in the same family as hinoki, the Japanese magnolia. If it was like a full restoration of like an antique, like a wall hanger or a display, yeah, then you spend the money. But this guy's going to be using this, so. No, for cutting practice. Tamashigiri. It's it's an art that's studied, Iaido and Kendo. It's more of a esoteric art. People study it for like personal discipline, patience. It's something that I would really like to do. And there's a school down in Atlanta, is Kyoto, the Japanese bow, but it's not very convenient for where I'm at. It's a long haul down there, but I would like to do that. Yeah, it is. It's more of a. I think it's meant to kind of it teaches you patience because it's not about shooting 50 arrows. So like Rogan would probably go insane. They would say, "Don't shoot so many arrows," and he would freak out. Down here we have a park called Stone Mountain, and some of you probably heard of it. It's where the giant portrait of the Civil War generals is cut into the rock. And it's always, anytime there's a big controversy about monuments and the Civil War and how we should erase our history, that monument always comes up. But every year they have a Japan Fest down there, and they have like all these different artists, calligraphers, and wood carvers, sumei painters. It's really nice. And great food. It's not like takeout food. I'm pretty sure that powerful JRE, he enjoys hurting animals, and that gives him, kind of clears him to do that. He has a certain amount of glee when he talks about killing animals. It's kind of weird. No, I don't get any that way. I don't even try down there for that. It's just it's Japanese have their thing down there, and it's cool to go to. Oh, and they always have the Kyoto drummers with the great big drums, and they do it. Oh man, it's awesome. It really is cool. If you ever have a chance to go see a Japanese drum squad, go see it because it is awesome. Unbelievable the skill. When they start crossing each other's arms, and it's all in a pattern. It's amazing. Yeah, I agree, Lando. I think there's, yeah, probably not a great guy. He's a very dishonest guy, or maybe not dishonest, disingenuine. He's a schemer. Yeah, for all the stuff that Alex Jones says, the one thing that I like to believe him on is that Rogan is under control, government control. That just cracks me up to think that. You know, I never watched Fear Factor. I think I sat down because someone tried to get me to watch it with them. I sat down one time and they were eating like some animal's knob. It was like a rhinoceros knob or something like that, and then maggoty cheese. And I never watched it again. I don't need that ever. It's just gross. Yeah, there's a weird thing of that, whatever that story is. Funny thing about Alex Jones is that there's normally a percentage, let's just say it's 80%. 80% is what he tells you is kind of there. It's the other. Oh, dude, come on, get down, get down, you lunatic. But it's the other 20%. The real truth, the important part that he kind of inflates and. Stay down. Stay down. I'm going to get the water bottle. Let's try this one. Eggs decided he was going to sit on the space bar. And that's also when you'll really see that other guy, Owen Troyer. I like to call him Owen Troyer instead of Schroyer. But that's when you'll see him get real shitty and snarky too, is when anybody brings up the Israel, then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, you guys are stupid." It's like, I don't know, guys. I mean, if you can really believe that, there's maybe not such great people running the United States of America, and there's not great people running Britain, and there's not great people running Russia, it's not that much of a stretch to think that there's probably some not so great people running Israel too. I mean, every country. That's the type of people that get up there. You stay on that chair, stay off the desk. Everything will be cool. I know people get so touchy about Israel. It's like, yeah, they're fine. The people are like everywhere. The people are great that live in the country. It's the creeps that get themselves into positions of power. They got to have it. No, that was Eggs that jumped up over there and then decided he was going to lick his balls and sit on the space bar. So now he's sitting on my chair over there sulking. So the goal here is to try to cut this cavity and have it fit perfect to the Nakago. The challenge is that it's thicker up by the blade, thinner down here, but it also tapers. And it has a flat area, and when it goes to the geometry of the blade, it turns to a wedge. So back here it's a consistent thickness, and then it tapers down. So it can be you gotta be really patient. Check your work a lot. Oof, that was bad. Bad. What was he, He-Man? Yeah. He is a creep. I don't like him as a person. Not even just that he's a bomb. I don't like the guy. I think he's a bad guy. I saw the other day he had posted like pictures of him, doing a selfie with all these black people, and it's like, do these people know the horrible stuff you do? And that's not all just for fun either. I mean, that's you're seeing the way a guy really thinks. He posts these like ridiculously gross things about his wife on Twitter. Like a guy, he's like a guy who's just got to try to get a laugh out of everybody for every situation. And I don't know, maybe you don't want certain things you don't want to say about your wife. Get down. Come on. I don't think so. I mean, he may be a little bit. Most people don't know who comedians are because a lot of times I'll get in a conversation and, I'll get down. All right, get down. Get out of here. Go. You're banished. Obscurity. Get. Yeah, it's funny. I'll bring up just in sometimes like with talking to my brother or family or something, or and like no one gets it. It's just like okay. Yeah, it's hard. You got to remember that nobody has a clue what you're talking about. You know, and they got spring fever too. They've been driving me crazy today. So I had the door open. I've had the windows open, and they sit there whining. They'll be over it soon enough. When it gets hot, they'll be glad to have air conditioning. And one day my mom sent me a text. She goes, "What have you been working on?" I took a picture of the count and I sent it to her. She goes, "What is that?" And I told her, and she said, "Why are you doing that?" I don't know. Why not? It's great. I'm sure it makes absolutely no sense to most people. She said, "Well, the sculpture looks great, but why would you sculpt that guy?" Well, it's a lot to get into. Yeah, we all hate it, but we watch it every day. Try to explain that to someone without them thinking you're insane. Oh, no, it's terrible. Yeah, oh, yeah, we hate it. Complain about it the whole time. Why do you watch it? I don't know. Don't want to miss anything, just in case. I don't know. We're gonna replace some of that though, because I can't stop my work day twice a day for schmutz and the count. It's just too haggard. Once I get this cut in a little bit, I can start being a little bit more aggressive. Starting on a Japanese sword restoration. Stay down. It hasn't been that long. I haven't forgotten. Yeah, we're still buds. So I always think Joe would have like the anime sword. He'd get the biggest sword he could possibly have. It'd be longer than he is tall. He would have all that stuff. See, he would go into battle and he would have one of everything. He could barely move, but he would have a giant axe and a huge sword. Eggs would make a good second mic. He wouldn't walk on my jokes. You know, in feudal Japan, they have paper. Well, they would paper a sword, and they still do it to this day. They paper and they grade the quality of the blade. But there used to be guys who specialized in testing. That was their job, was to test new blades as the smiths made them. And sometimes they would test them on prisoners. So they would, if someone was sentenced to death, sometimes they would die by seeing how far a sword could cut through their body. And there are several tests that they would do. They have a kesagiri, which kesa is the lapel on a kimono. So kesagiri was to cut along the lapel. So they would cut in through where the neck and the shoulder met, and they would try to cut all the way diagonally through the thorax and out the hip. And it was very possible to do. Get down. Get down. Okay? Go out. Go find something to do. No. Get out. Oh, and they had some particularly gruesome cuts that they would do. They had a wheel cut, which was ichimonji sideways, and they would try to cut through the pelvis. And so cut through all that bone. And believe me, a Japanese sword can cut through bone. So that wheel cut, and then also through the shoulders, cutting through the top of the humerus and through all the ribs and the sternum. And with one cut, they would test to see. And so they had one test where they would stack the prisoners. They would like lay them down on the ground, one on top of another, like a stack of guys. And I think that I had read about there was a blade that was graded that it cut through 5 people, one downward, kiriaroshi, right through 5 people. So pretty gruesome stuff. Now, I don't know, that could be BS, but as far as 5 people, but I do know that oh yeah, in World War II, they practiced their cutting on soldiers, prisoners of war. They'd take off the POWs' heads. The officers would. Japan was on par, and some say worse, than the Nazis for war crimes. But because we had a different plan for them, they got away with a lot of it. But yeah, they were dropping bubonic plague on Chinese villages and sewing people together for testing and all. And they were putting like diseases like in wounds on prisoners to just see what would happen. Really, really terrible, terrible stuff. And because of the way history is usually written with an agenda, a lot of times that doesn't come up. Oh, they did horrible things to the Chinese. That animosity won't go away for probably at least another generation, and if they keep teaching that history, maybe not for longer. But they did horrible things to the Chinese. Murder and rape. Yeah. Way more extreme than the Nazis. I mean, really, really cruel stuff. Very cruel. And a lot of that stuff is not taught to Japanese school children. Because it's, of course, I'm sure they're not proud of that. But it's such a strange thing that they would be so cruel like that. I heard someone explain it one time. Hang on, I'm thinking about a couple of things here at once. But I heard someone explain one time that because of cultural things like seppuku, if you know what seppuku is, it's harakiri. You know, over here we pronounce everything wrong all the time. Say harikiri. Well, that's it's harakiri. Kiri is, or giri and kiri. Giri is a cut, kiri is to cut, the verb. And hara is your center. So you're like where your chi is, where your energy is. So harakiri literally means to cut the center. So they would insert the knife into the solar plexus. So you can imagine how awful that would be. Or they would come into one side and the belly and then harakiri, pull it across the front. Now, if they lived long enough to pull it across the front and cut the hara, then they would follow up the rib to the xiphoid process on the sternum and cut into the diaphragm and the solar plexus. Really horrible. But that was kind of an accepted thing. So you can imagine if you grew up either knowing people that eventually did it, or knowing that someday you might have to do it, that probably you become desensitized to it to some degree. I would think you would have to. If from the time you were a little kid, you saw people in the village do it, then it would just become, well, that's just a normal thing that people have to do. Sometimes people are called on by their master to end their life, or if they dishonored themselves. So I've heard people explain that that's one of the reasons why maybe some of the cruelty happened, was that, it was war and a lot of the soldiers were desensitized to that kind of suffering. Because I don't think the Japanese are necessarily a sadistic people. No more than anyone else. Not to explain some of that horrendous stuff that went on. Stuff in the POW camps and the Bataan Death March and all, just some horrible stuff. Now, I'm not a gaijin. That's a derogatory term the Japanese use towards Westerners that are obsessed with Japanese culture. We kind of call them Japanophiles, and we joke about them. They watch anime and they learn anime style Japanese language. And I'll tell you a funny story. I was down at Japan Fest. This is quite a few years ago, but you always see gaijin down there. These crazy 20-something-year-old, and it's always males, that they just want to be Japanese more than anything. So we saw this guy, he's walking up to the festival and he's got his kimono on. And we're like, oh boy, well, here you go. But I had learned years ago, musubi. Musubi is a knot. I'd learned knots for doing like this stuff. Learn how to tie different Japanese knots. Tie off the end of the silk, and then also for the cord that goes through the saya. So learn these formal, ornate, decorative knots. Really cool. But this kid had his kimono on, and he had his bow all done up like the way a Japanese woman would wear her kimono. And so, of course, we all we're laughing, and the Japanese people were laughing too. He came walking by. He's got his little shoes on, his little wood sandals, with his kimono tied on like a woman, because he doesn't know. He went probably somewhere and saw someone show how to tie it. Tie the obi. The obi is the belt. Sageo is the name of the cord. Yeah, so if you're, I don't know what you guys are into, and I'm not going to judge you, but if you're one of those dudes, man, the Japanese laugh at you behind your back. So don't be that guy. They don't think it's cool that you respect their culture or anything. They laugh at you. And whatever Japanese language you learn from anime, don't use it to talk to Japanese people, because most of it's very informal and it's disrespectful. So my tip, don't be a gaijin. most cultures don't really respect like other people, especially Americans. You know, dressing up like them and stuff like that. I can speak probably about the level of like a little child. I can find out where El Baño is and stuff like that. But um, I know a lot of specific terminology based on some work I've done, and I studied Iaido for a number of years from the person that taught me how to do this stuff. I normally have a nice little carving blade to do this with, but I broke it. Got in a little deep and snapped it. So I need to order a new one. There's a nice little style of blade that has a nice rounded sweep on the end. It's nice high carbon steel. You can get them really sharp, but they just to come through that grain sideways, it just goes through it like butter. But as I have a tendency to do sometimes, I will misuse a tool, and usually with the expected result. I try not to do it, but sometimes you just don't feel like going and finding that other specific thing. Part of my spring cleaning is to try to get a handle on some of this. I'm not joking when I say there's thousands of small tools in that shop. It's quite a job to go through it. Some stuff I'm going to try to pack up if I haven't used it in a long time. Pack it in tubs, mark it, make a little manifest for the file cabinet. But it is really easy to start getting like a ton of tools, especially like if you do a job that requires something very specific, so you factor it into the bid, and then you end up buying it and only using it that one time, and that happens over and over again, and you end up just with stuff everywhere. And it's really a monster to keep up with it. Get down. I'm telling you. Persistent today. I think that they actually like sit out there and they go, it's been a while since I've tried. I'm going to try again. I'll let you know how it goes. Eggs is like, all right, it's been 5 minutes since I tried to jump up on that desk. Maybe things have changed. And that is very possible too, Amy. That is definitely possible. No, I think Amy's right because they have been wild all day long, and really they were wild through the weekend. But I did move this room around. They used to be able to get to, there's a window now behind this rack. And they used to be able to get to that window and sit in the windowsill. And I think that's part of the problem here. They cannot get to that window anymore. Yeah, he could have eaten a bug or something. I've been through that here. You worry about it, and then everything's fine. It's almost stink bug season too. Pretty soon I'll be able to tell when someone is chomped into a stink bug. Yeah, that smell gets old really fast. Yeah, I've made blades before. I've hammered them. I've made them out of like spring steel or like old springs off of old cars and old saw blades. Old saw blades are excellent for making. That's what I should do. I should make rather than buy another knife. I should just make one. I've got some old saw blades. That would be a good project for the stream. I can probably do it and just keep the blade really cool so I don't lose temper, and then I won't have to heat treat or anything like that. Though I can heat treat it off the stream, but and just keep a lot of water going so I don't detemper the metal. Sorry, I'm kind of working here so you can't really see. I'm right-handed though. Nice sharp chisel going sideways through the grain. Similar idea, but the process is not quite the same. But it's, I guess it is somewhat similar. You control the cooling, and you get it to a temp and hold the temp, and for similar reasons. You want the metal to stay at a temperature so that the atoms can rearrange themselves. So like with chocolate, you want the same thing. You want everything to have when you quick cool something or quench it, the molecules they freeze, or the atoms freeze right where they are. By tempering, you allow them to all get back into their optimal place where they all fit and lock together like a nice tight puzzle. So you get better texture. In the case of metal, you get stronger, consistent metal throughout the piece of material. 11 o'clock already. The days have just been flying by. I'm gonna go grab one of my squeeze clamps. There you go. Some weird sounding airplane going over. It's probably one of those experimental aircraft. My parents used to live about 10 minutes from here, maybe, yeah, more than that, because there's a lot of places you had to go slow, but let's say 10 miles, 10, 12 miles away. They live close to a private airfield. And there was a flight trainer that worked out of that little airfield, and people in small private planes, Cessnas and things like that, would practice, and they would practice their stalls, like they're cutting the engine and all those different emergency procedures. And sometimes you'd swear that a plane was getting ready to crash. Got used to it after a while, but there's a couple times I thought for sure a plane was coming down. Man, you're pushing it tonight. You are pushing it. That's another thing I forgot to do. I meant to some brackets and bolt this desk, this work table to the wall. It wiggles a little bit. Trying to get some of that fan reaction. Yeah, I'm gonna make one of those little blades. Might do that this week, but I really need that right now. The old folding knife isn't a great replacement. I forgot he was in Second City. I guess I forgot that Second City was even a thing. Have a good night, A+. I'll be there with coffee in the morning. Is that the bio that's on Compound? I don't know. I just have a feeling he's going to drop into that format with all the movie and TV references. He probably went in Netflix every gangster movie he could, every mafia movie. Got a Godfather marathon going. Like, oh, please don't. That's the worst. You know, he downloaded a thesaurus app so he can rhyme words with Artie. What did he say today? He did a really dumb one. Something about Bell's palsy. He did just a dumb Saved by the Bell's palsy or something. It's just something stupid. It's terrible. Yeah, Hell's Bell's palsy. Yeah. They were really making fun of Norton on the subreddit the other day about his rock and roll thing, you know, Black Sabbath, and Norton's this huge Black Sabbath fan. There are some funny guys on that subreddit. Also, when you're working with this stuff for Japanese swords, you never use sandpaper. Never want to use sandpaper. One little grain of sand gets in the wrong place and it'll do a lot of damage. Oh, Lando, I did think of something else that I want to do. After we were talking about Gru, I want to make a little sculpture of a Gru the Wanderer. It's probably going to be quite a challenge, too, because cartoon characters to 3D are not easy. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they work. Sometimes they're very difficult. I've seen a lot of people struggle with like Beavis and Butthead. Very difficult cartoons to translate. That's a good non-fool project. I really want to get that Muscat going. I really want to start that. We'll be coming up on the perfect time of year to have it up there. No, maybe I'll run it by Mike and just ask him if he cares if I post something like that in the BBG as a special project. Going, hey guys, anyone want to help out with this? Because I think it's probably going to be about $1,500 for materials. That's my guess. And then probably a few hundred for shipping. That big old dopey Mussman running around Times Square. Nobody knowing what to think. Yeah, Don Martin did the little drawings in the margins. Great little cartoons. Who's the guy that did Spy versus Spy? Forget his name. Don Martin did a lot of the parodies, the movie parodies. Like his guys always had the long sausage nose. You can tell his art. It's very distinct style. When I was a kid, I loved Mad Magazine, and I used to always try to make my own movie parodies, and of course they were awful. I was probably like 8 years old, something like that. And I had this great idea to do Raiders of the Lost Ark, except for they were going to open up a refrigerator and find it full of rotten food. And I specifically remember thinking, what a great idea that was. And then years later, I thought, what a stupid idea that was. But you look at Mad Magazine now, and they're not good. They're not that great either. So maybe they never really were that great. But when you're a kid, It seems awesome. I used to love the folding back page where you'd fold it and make another picture. I thought it was the greatest thing ever, but it's really just a simple, goofy concept. You think that things were so much different back then, but if you go back and look at that stuff now, you see the same nonsense going on now with everything getting politics injected into it. It's just that you didn't pick up on it as a young nerd. But it's been going on. I mean, it was going on very strong when Reagan was in office. Speaking of, Artie is, these guys that every time someone brings up Don Rickles, like, oh, Rickles, oh, wow, yeah, the legend. Man, I never found any of that stuff funny. I think he had to, throw a couple of zingers on Carson that would make you laugh. But I mean, as far as he was just an obnoxious dude. Maybe I just hate comedy. Thought Carlin was great. Thought Richard Pryor was rich. I love Richard Pryor. Some of it's a bit dated now that you listen to it, but I still like to listen to Mudbone every now and then. Is that what that guy's name was? Goes to the witch doctor, the voodoo doctor. She's got an eyeball tattooed on her boobs. Yeah, he's another one where the old stuff is it's dated, but I remember it being really funny. He's an excellent banjo player. Like really good. Oh yeah, The Jerk is funny. Definitely, I think so too. Movies like that will never be made. I mean, unless things change a lot in society, they'll never make movies like that again. It'd be too much backlash. It's a shame too. You have people going back and directors saying that they're ashamed of their movies, and it's like, guys, chill out. It's really gross. Oh yeah, I mean, definitely. It's not been great after that. But I think he put a lot more time into his bluegrass playing and his banjo playing than he ever did in comedy. Which is fine. I can respect that. Yeah, what would she be upset about the Breakfast Club for? Breakfast Club is great. I can't even really think of anything non-PC that stands out. Well, how about giving that 16 Candles money back there, Molly? I'll have to look for that. Be interested in reading what her big problem is with that. Now, I know a lot of those people that were in those movies had problems with John Waters. And God, what was the other one? There was another. It might have been yeah, it was Breakfast Club, or it might have been 16 Candles. But they talked about what a horrible shoot it was, and that everybody was miserable. Yeah, because I think Hughes was really a creep. Now, I don't know that for sure, but there's horror stories about pink flamingos. I mean, absolutely, just like they killed that chicken in that sex scene, and like those people were they were disgusting. Divine was definitely a lunatic. And Divine ate that dog poop for real. That dog just that wasn't part of the scene. That was just a pedestrian Came by, the dog pooped, and Divine picks up that poop and eats it. I mean, it just, I can't watch it. The sex scenes are just disturbing, and Waters was a real freak. But a lot of people have accused John Hughes of also being. Yeah. Oh. It said she died from, I guess, being obese. It eventually got her. Crybaby's actually kind of funny. If I'm not mistaken, that Pink Flamingos was rated X when it came out. I don't know why I'm thinking that, but yeah, I've always thought that a lot of those movies, I bet, do. You know, sometimes they'll fess up to it, and a lot of times they don't. But I bet you a lot of them have some real stuff going on. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's real for sure. Years ago, I heard a story about Eyes Wide Shut that, someone in the business told me. Who knows if it's true or not? But Harvey Keitel was originally in that movie. And Harvey Keitel is apparently a big-time method actor. And they were doing some scene where Nicole Kidman was blindfolded and Harvey Keitel was being a jacka, standing behind her being a jacka. And he was really being a jacka during the filming because he's a method actor. Well, apparently he had a bit of a release and it went into Nicole Kidman's hair, and Tom Cruise absolutely flipped out on the set and was going to bring that whole movie to a halt. And that's why they got rid of Harvey Keitel from that movie. You know, another method actor is Daniel Day-Lewis. He seems to be a pretty intense guy. I really like that movie about the oil. What was that movie called? I saw it right around the same time as No Country for Old Men. I always think about that movie. Yeah, There Will Be Blood. I enjoyed that for a movie. I think I watched it a couple of times. Have you guys ever seen the Crowder? The Steven Crowder parody of There Will Be Blood? It's in the bowling alley scene with Eli. It's actually pretty funny. Crowder's got his little gray sweater on and his mustache. It's pretty funny. Isn't it about the mug club? I mean, it's just so stupid to go. And I mean, I think they filmed it in the same place, or they recreated that set very well. Mug club. Did you guys see the video with Pistachio Girl up? She lost a bunch of weight. Yeah, there's something bizarre. She needs like makeup tips or something. There's something weird going on. She lost a lot of weight. That's what it was. Yeah, Jay, what's that guy's name? Jay Frenchie or something like that. All these weirdos capitalizing on that political scene. There must be a lot of money in it because I see some of these, like Lionel. You know Lionel. He's got like 28,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's insane. You know, I'll give Yukis one thing. She puts work into those. She does all those things by herself. That is a ton of work. Oh, congrats, Amy. One less thing to worry about, huh? Yeah, I'll give her credit on those animations. Boy, there is shenanigans going out in that other room. I can hear it. Amy's out there hobnobbing with all the darlings of the alt-right. Have you hung out with Lana Loktoff? Is that how you pronounce her name? Loktoff? She's one of the hosts on Red Ice. There's the Heinrich guy, and then there's that brunette from England. Lana Loktoff, I think. Oh, yeah, the left has got her. I think the SPLC has her on the list. Their list of the most evil people in the world. McCarthy. That girl in England, her last name is McCarthy. I don't know, to do that, to do a podcast like that, I mean, of course you have to prep. So you're constantly reading a solid diet of that stuff all the time. It just doesn't sound fun. You'd never get away from it. We've almost got half of this done. Not too bad for an impromptu. That doesn't surprise me. She's on that list too. You know, the ADL and the SPLC really, they're as evil as the people that they put on these lists. They put, you know, they classify these people as these insane Nazis who want to kill everybody. And they put those people in a lot of jeopardy. All you need to fight those people is the power button on whatever device you're watching it. They'll never come get you past that. The SPLC is real dirty too. They got a lot of they have a pretty bad rap now, but they had a tendency to get all these older Jewish people on these newsletters and then, you know, send all these things out all the time telling them how pretty much that the Nazis were under every rock, and if they didn't send in money, they weren't going to be able to stop them. So they kind of got a bad rap for that. But they pulled in a lot of money for a lot of years. Except Morris Dees, he's one of them. SPLC. Who's the other attorney? The real creep. Dershowitz, that's it. Yeah, if that SPLC got investigated, people would go to jail. But they'll probably never get investigated. A lot of bad people out there. Always chasing money, too. Money, money, money. Yeah, what's the worst Gavin's going to do? He might fall asleep next to you and pee on you. I mean, it's hysterics. Ooh, I forgot about the Gavin card. That could be a fun one to do. Someone wants to take on Groven. There's going to be so many icons. I mean, no one will be able to make heads or tails of it. Gavin's a sex guy, I think, right? I think people are worried that if their art isn't up to snuff. I mean, if it's like really rough, we may go in there and clean them up a little bit. But like, I really like the MS Paint Matarese that it was in the BBG. That kind of stuff is funny. Yeah, well, the best thing to do, Bran, if you make another one, use one of those templates that I put up. You want to do it bigger in 300 and let the printer shrink it down. You don't want to make them exact size, print size. So that's why I made those templates for everyone to download. 3 or 4 times is good. I made them four up. And I made them at 300 DPI. If I didn't have all this other stuff going on, we could probably pump out, at least 8 a week. It's going to be hard, though. With the count going on. In a few days, I'm going to have to make some chulas. Oh, Chicken Man. Chicken JRE. I did start a berg earlier today. It's a fast one. It's just like Berg in the frame of the picture, and just a little bit of his nose and his eyes is peeking up, and there's fingers like reaching over out of the frame. So it's hardly anything at all. Oh, May already. Gonna have to crank out the rest of this. Count Kumia. Get him done. No, I'm talking about the mask. Getting that done. Maybe can sell a few. I got a lot of dough tied up in that thing already. Just from what we've done so far. By the time I make the molds, I'll have a lot of money tied up in it. Yeah, it's very close. It's very close. I think just a couple of big nights, a couple of big streams, and it'll be there. But like anything, too, I need a break from it sometimes. Even when I was when I ran shops, sometimes I would just divert to something else for a little while and come back, because you can really do some damage if you're not like into it. It's kind of the luxury of not being in a production environment where it's like, too bad. Get on there. You got 1,000 more frames to set up. Within reason. You can't not be in the mood for something for 2 weeks and it just never gets done. Usually once you start, I've always found that out. You're like, I don't really want to do that. Once you start, you get right in the groove. Well, the problem for me that I've found is that when you stare at something for a prolonged period of time, you start to lose focus of the overall picture. And like for myself, I'll notice if I start just kind of noodling. If I just start kind of like just picking, I've it's kind of blurred in my mind. The overall thing is melted together. So if I do something else for a little while and come back to it, then it all that clears away. Ooh, boy, we're almost there. Almost. Maybe I will tomorrow. I'll grind a piece of steel out. Do that messy work in the shop. Because I really would like to have that little curved carving knife. Oh, I gotta go to UPS tomorrow. I gotta make myself a Post-it. I meant to go today and I forgot about it until it was too late. Remember last week when I said, I know there's something I should have done today? I remembered what it was after. Oh, that won't take that long at all. I'll do the grinding in the shop. And then I'll just make a nice little handle for it or something. Sharpen it in here. That'll be a one-night project. I might even have a piece of tooling steel that I can use, which is even better. Yeah, it's just a small little blade with a nice big curve on it. I'd like to have a nice set of Swiss wood carving tools, but again, it's another thing. It's like, oh boy, spend a lot of money for something that you don't use very often. Oh, for the tonight? Yeah, it's really gotten ridiculous. If you don't like something, just don't watch it. Yeah, but I don't demand Kumia be taken off the air. I'm making the choice. Yeah, I'm not tomorrow. I'm not watching it tomorrow. I got stuff to do. I might not even watch morning. That's 3.5 hours of my day. But I don't think he should be, taken off the air. It's really that simple. The internet has, one click to the hardest, disgusting, abusive pornography that you could ever pump into your mind. And these people are worried about political opinions they don't like. I mean, they're scumbags. Have you ever heard like an activist feminist ever once bring up pornography where they just like spit on girls and slap girls? And no, it's never that. It's someone made a comment on Twitter. It's so crazy. That's why it's all bullshit. How about people like Lainey Spicer, who is a predator? Just because she's female, she is a predator. Taking those broken women. You know, they're already finding out, and the results are starting to bear fruit on what all of this social media and pornography and tablets and smartphones, it's really already starting to play out on what it does to people. And it's not good. Not good. You got 3 generations of, or at least 2, of young men that don't know how to have healthy relationships with women, and vice versa. Women that cannot get along with men, can't stay in a relationship, can't stay together to raise the kids. I'm telling you, a lot of people think I'm full of shit, but there's so many of these young boys growing up with single moms, and it's a disaster. It's a real disaster. No, I was almost married. I had my last relationship, unfortunately, was just someone who had some severe issues that she brought along with her from past relationships. But I was engaged once. Then she started hanging out with some girl from work until 4 or 5 in the morning, coming home all zooted up on whatever they could find that night, whether it was ecstasy or crystal. And it's just like, well, that's a shame. We were together for 6 years, and I had a ring on her finger. She would not stop going out with this girl from work and staying out all night at clubs. And I was home every single night, either working at my office. I was still doing stuff I am now. I was doing a lot more audio, but I was home every single night. The only time I went out was when she was with me. But that's kind of, that's what I'm talking about, is that men and women are both getting bad information and not learning how to deal with one another. I mean, I have to explain to someone why they shouldn't be coming home at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, tripping balls. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have to explain that. And I'm no easy person to be around. I'm a workaholic. So I need someone who can like be cool with me being in the next room, or just, me being in the same room but not focusing all attention, because I can't do the TV thing. I hate television. And I typically work, I mean, that's most days I'm 12, 14 hours. And you could say 16, including lunches and stuff. A lot of days I get up in the morning, 6 or 7 o'clock, and I go till midnight or past. It's not uncommon. And I do understand that is an issue for a lot of people in a relationship. So I'm not saying like I'm perfect. Definitely not. I'm always looking for that special gal who just let me work. Come and sit in here with me and talk to me, but for God's sakes, let me work. I got to, or I go crazy. I tell you, on any given day, I probably think of 10 projects to make. No, and I do understand that's dysfunctional. So no, I'm not saying that, women are cringe and I got everything figured out. But the problem is that, if I make that effort and then I say, okay, 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 6 p.m., 7 o'clock, shut it down. Then I go out there and I'll sit and my leg will be tapping 1,000 miles away and I'll be wanting to bite my fingernails because I'm like, can't sit. Something that I perceive to not be a productive use of my time. So there is probably some dysfunction there. You know what I need is like, like when people have been married for 20 years and then they just really don't want to, they just want like to be on one side of the house and the other one, they're happy together. The marriage is good. They don't want to get a divorce, but they aren't up each other's butts. I need to get in a relationship where I can go right from like the new and exciting to that 20-year marriage, like in the first week, and then everything will be cool. Sounds easy enough. Or I could find a Farmville addict, as long as she wouldn't spend all my money on Farmville coins. Nah, gamer wouldn't work. Gamer definitely wouldn't work. Later on. Well, I did this room. The big shop needs an overhaul too. I did a big wood project and there's a lot of sawdust in there. I'm just gonna work that a little bit at a time. Go in there and spend an hour or so a day and whittle away at it. Well, it's 12:30, guys. We gotta cut it. We gotta cut it. But not bad, a little impromptu. That's just about there. Then drill the Makugiana and do the other side. Yeah, so for the watchers, I'm gonna skip the shows tomorrow. I gotta get a normal work day in so I can get caught up on a couple of things. But thanks everybody for hanging out. It makes the work go by really fast. Have a great night.